Hi, so one of the things that people like most when participating in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class is the rolling element. So when we say a roll, what we mean is that we are just moving around and grappling with another person. And these positions usually start in neutral scenarios. So for instance, we'll have like a guard wrapped up on another person, which is meaning our legs are wrapped around their waist. Another instance of where a roll might begin is standing up on the feet. When it comes to the feet though, there are serious limitations in that due to wherever we are participating in this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu session, if we participate in the feet for our roll, we are going to quickly run into space difficulties. So, if I'm grappling with someone on the feet and we're moving around, it increases the danger because we might run into another group of participants. This is especially bad when we are on the feet and our opponents, our partners next to us might be on the ground. So then we risk these people getting stepped on, which is a horrible idea. Another aspect of these rolls are that when we get to a dominant position on our partner and we secure a submission, usually the person who was on bottom will now be on top. This tends to be the case when we are talking about starting in guard, which is the way more common way to start a roll. One reason that people might like rolls and this kind of engagement is that there's a lot of freedom. There's a great deal of freedom. You're free to pursue kind of all sorts of different strategies, and it's very unstructured in that way. Because of that freedom, you can kind of work your own game. Now that we've briefly discussed what a roll is, let's talk about some of the limitations of it and where this tool that everyone really loves kind of falls short in a few respects. The first point I would like to discuss is that a roll lacks what we call representative design, which is an ecological dynamics term that I'm just going to borrow. Representative design means that what we engage in needs to be representative of the sport we are participating in. So for instance, if I'm trying to practice for basketball, I want to mirror what an actual competitive basketball scenario would be like in my training practices. So if a basketball game has like 5-on-5 or something, then I want to get as close to having that many parties on the field as I can. That way, it mirrors what I'm training for. Now, whether or not I think basketball is more than 5, but I'm not familiar with that sport, so guys will have to let me know about But whatever the sport is that we are talking about, we want our training practices to best be representative of what we are actually going to experience in that given competitive setting. Now, when I say a roll isn't representative of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the competition sense, what I mean is that when we do this, we don't typically have a plan of what we are trying to do. These rolls, again, are unstructured in that when I'm going against someone, I don't have like a thing I'm especially looking for. It's just going with someone without a plan. And when in a combative situation, would it be ideal to get into it without a plan? When I'm going into a competition and I'm going against another person, our coaches are definitely going to strategize with us. And we're going to be thinking of things that we can do that'll best secure us a victory. With these unstructured grappling sessions, though, again, it's more like a free-for-all, where we go against just whoever is in the room, and we go into it without a little strategy in mind. This can lead to bad habits, in that there's work that needs to be done before we enter into a competition, and as we are at this event, we need to be thinking of the best way to approach a given opponent, and we need to be examining all of the things that this particular person is doing leading up to that contest, because we're going to have this bracket, and we should be paying attention to everyone's matches in our division on this bracket and seeing what they are about. Rolling encourages us to just go with the flow and wing it, and that is not a great strategy for success. Secondly, another limitation of rolling is that it's horrible as an onboarding tool. Onboarding is like when we have someone new in a particular situation, usually in reference to a job. If I have a new employee, I need to onboard them, meaning I need to familiarize them with the procedures of the work environment. I need to get them into the routine of doing their duties for this particular job. Now again, in reference to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a roll goes through all sorts of different positions. There's all of this freedom, again, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. If I am a completely new person and unfamiliar with any given position of this martial art, then rolling would be both incredibly dangerous and incredibly confusing, as we will have no idea what is going on. A given martial arts class typically has a technical section to it that is how we start off, and then a rolling section that follows, maybe 30 minutes of technique and 30 minutes of rolling. When I have a new student at our gym, and I'm trying to get them to roll, how am I going to get them comfortable with all of the many positions of this martial art in which they might experience in this unstructured rolling situation? There's way too much going on for it to be good for new people to be involved in. I feel like this is a big reason that people can get hurt, because they aren't familiar with the rules. This is true of both the new people who don't know jiu-jitsu and experienced practitioners trying to go with them. It is incredibly easy for elbows to start flying and knees to go up too high, and for people to catch one of these, for an advanced party in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to catch one of these. And it's not the fault of the new practitioner. It's just that they weren't given a great explanation of what this art is, and they weren't given the chance to learn how things are done before going off of the deep end in this role. So again, that would be another reason. My third and last reason is that as a coach, it's not a great tool to have students roll, because the more students I have, the more things are just going on on different segments of the mat. So for instance, in a roll on this section over here, there could be a person on back, and they are attacking from that position. So both attacking concepts of being in back control are happening, and defensive concepts of defending back are happening. But over here, it's like 5 minutes of guard play. And on another section of the mat, we could have like side control things going on. But we could have like a whole gamut of different things taking place, different concepts arising, and our technical session might have had absolutely nothing to do with any of that. I could have taught half guard on a given day, and now I'm having all of these different scenarios taking place that have nothing to do with reinforcing the lesson I gave. In this scenario, learning is taking place. All of these different positions are being learned, but it's just haphazard, in that I can't, as a coach, figure out what a given teaching moment is, because there's all of this stuff happening. So it would be complicated for me to run over here and talk about back defense, and then run over here and talk about like guard play. It's just kind of a mess. And it's very difficult for me to make teaching moments of these particular things going on. An alternative to a rolling session would be like an activity done exclusively from half guard. Maybe more of a pummeling engagement and things of that nature. Or maybe we're working from half guard and we're doing like a pass and sweep kind of drill. But then I know that everybody in that room is kind of on the same page, which is helpful to make sure that everyone understands what my lesson was about and are able to actually use the things that we talked about. If I didn't think those things were important, then I wouldn't have given them out there to people. But if I had them roll, then none of those things that I taught might have any kind of impact on what they do. They might not even ever see those particular positions. My last point is kind of in defense of rolling. What this engagement best emulates or kind of mirrors isn't a competitive environment. When we compete with people, we want a strategy. We want different tactical ideas in mind for how to deal with them. When we roll, we don't typically have any of that in mind. This situation is best representative of not a competitive situation, but a self-defense one. When I'm walking down the street and someone just grabs hold of me, that is a combative situation. I don't have a plan going into things. And this person who grabbed me might very well have a plan or some idea. However, me not having a plan is kind of like the same thing that would happen in a given rolling context. And so in that way, rolling's really helpful because it prepares us for a potentially important kind of scenario that might happen, but very infrequently. Of course, one issue with this kind of comparison is that in rolling situations, we start in neutral. So our guard is considered neutral in that I have the ability to attack with submissions and potentially sweep my opponents. And my partner has the ability to impose pressure because they are on top and they have the ability to pass my guard. So we both have strengths and weaknesses, and they kind of balance out is the idea. But of course, in a self-defense situation that I just described, we wouldn't be starting in neutral typically. It's just someone coming after us. And we probably wouldn't be in a great position. Like, they might not be coming after us face to face. They might start with having back control. Or I might start dazed because they hit me with something. There's 1,000 little scenarios that could be taking place. However, I just wanted to give that brief point in defensive rolling that I think is kind of neat, in that we might not normally think of it in that manner. But these have been my thoughts on this topic. And please let me know if you have any questions or anything in the comment section, or especially any criticisms, because we're kind of disparaging rolling here. But I still also I have a great time rolling as well. It's just important to identify where it is best and where it is weakest. But again, thanks so much for watching, and please consider liking and subscribing. But take care.